Good morning and good afternoon from wherever you are watching, and welcome to finale day for the RCI Multi-Sprint Series Season 2. Hypercars and GT3s have been at war over the past 3 weeks in what has been a truly incredible season. We started in Monza, headed north to Spa, and immediately wanted some better weather, so we headed down south to the Portuguese Algarve, and now we find ourselves at a track which could really be in contention for the Mount Rushmore of racing tracks. For the final time this season, I'm Callum Kerrigan. Joining me today, as always, is Jack Mays with Ted Edwards bringing in the goods on the broadcast. It is our pleasure today to welcome you to Imola.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, as Callum said, welcome to Imola, a personal favorite of mine. Happy to be here. Really pleased to have been able to join the comms team for 3 out of the 4 rounds for what has been a truly fantastic 4-round series. Hoping for some good racing, hoping for some well-earned victories in this final round.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Jack. And if we have anything of what sort of the season's been so far, I can almost guarantee that we will be getting exactly that. We're currently on board here with Carlos Calatayud leading the LMGT3 category, and we'll see sort of how that stacks up in the championship standings after qualifying. But from memory, I think he's got a fairly healthy lead, and this would be, well, not only one of our first sort of championship wins here on RCI, but I think one of Carlos's first championship takings if he's managed to hold on. He's got the likes of Verstappen, Roscam right up his tail though, so securing a securing a high qualifying position for him is all he really needs to make sure he's just in there, up in the points, securing that and keeping, well, his hand. Well, he's got one hand on the trophy right now, Jack, but trying to keep both hands on come towards the end of the race.
Absolutely. It's in a finale like this, it's all about execution. It's not necessarily about executing a win, it's just executing a good, consistent drive. It's getting over the line. It's not making early mistakes. It's not putting yourself under risk. It's all about keeping it together.
100%. I don't think I could have said it better myself there, Jack. It's all about that risk versus reward. You know, do you want to get hungry and fight for every position, or do you sit there and just conserve where you are, noting that will get you that championship win? It's Klaus Nyring who joins us back again, the dominant winner from round 1, and sadly an incident in round 2 which took him out of the race, even though he was in a dominant position there, who has set the benchmark with a 1:45.5. That's the target for everyone to beat. Carlos Calatayud on his second lap, looking like he's got a much better first sector under his belt, and Klaus Nyring also improving in that pink Lamborghini.
Gotta say, I love that pink car. I don't know what it is about it. It could be because it's pink. It could be because it's a V10. It could be both. I absolutely love that car. But yeah, really lighting up the timing sheets a bit in Sector 1. We'll see if Klaus can keep it together. This is coming through Aqua Minerale, one of the most unique corners really to experience in a lot of different cars, and on a fabulous circuit.
Yeah, one of the most unique and definitely one of the most challenging. I know I've done many Imola races in my time, and especially in LMU in the GT3 field. Like, it's that first part of Aqua Minerale, turn turn 11, I believe it is, that right-hander, you're so light on the rear end. So if you just overstep the steering angle just a touch, your rear end's going to step out on you, and you're going to find yourself in the wall and out of the race. It happened quite a lot when we had our first race here in the multi-sprint season 1, or the LMGT3 season. And hopefully no one, especially the front runners, will fall victim to that, as Klaus Neuring coming across the line 1:44.8. That puts him in P2. Carlos Calatiud making a statement here. He's come to race sitting up top with a 1:44.4.
Yeah, it's interesting to see sort of already how each of these cars, each of these unique manufacturers are taking, different lines, different curbs, especially because in Imola, I mean, Aqua Minerale is one of those corners, but the slow chicane following, it's something where depending on what kind of car you're in, depending on what kind of setup you're running, you got to be a little bit careful coming over the curbs.
Yeah, there's so many sort of, I guess, different elements to Imola. You've got the long straight, you've got the heavy corner sections, chicanes, hairpins, obviously Accamarane, Variante Alta. And again, the high curbs. So, do you want to set your car up to tackle those curbs well? Do you want to have a bit more comfortable on the downforce? Or do you want to really maximize the straight lines? It's really so important to dial in an all-round setup here and making sure you're comfortable, because confidence is absolutely key at a racetrack that you hesitate a little bit over these curbs, and it's going to really, really cost you in the race.
Yeah, Imola's known to bite. I mean, it's been changed quite a bit since its inception so many years ago. But I mean, the current configuration still is, it's quick, it's dangerous, it's exciting, and I'm interested to see not only how these GT3s go, but once we get going with the hypercar qualifying and especially the race, see how with this multi-class sprint cars are going to be dealing with each other as Christoph Verstappen puts in a good lap, brings him only 2/10 behind Carlos Calatiud.
Yeah, it was previously sort of within 400ths of, or 400ths of a second there, and Carlos immediately improves with Klaus Neuring now, also improving to take the top spot with a 1:44.1. These times are constantly improving, but just to give the people watching a little bit of insight as to why we don't have hypercars today, first 10 minutes is exclusively for the LMGT3s. If they start a lap after sort of the 10 minutes ticks over, they're not allowed to do another lap. When 10 minutes ticks over on the qualifying session, the hypercars can then come out and start to warm up their tyres ready for their flying laps, and that will set the grid for today's 1 hour and 20-minute race.
For those who are curious, which includes myself, I just did some quick math to see where Carlos Calatiud would have to finish to clinch this championship. My math may be wrong. I feel pretty confident about it, but as long as he finishes P8 or higher in class, Carlos Calatiud will win this championship.
Incredible. And that's Carlos, who I could almost assure you done the math and knows exactly where it needs to be. So all he's thinking in his mind is, I just need P8, I just need P8, I just need P8. And sadly, being the back end of a season, looks like a lot of people haven't been able to race today. I think there's a few injuries looking in the chat as well from a couple of our drivers. Only 10 people on the circuit as it stands. That means Carlos Calatiud is really thinking like, oh God, I've actually got a very good chance. Unless something absolutely disastrous goes on, I'm going to be touching my wooden desk here, as I don't want to get in an early commentator's curse, but that's definitely going to be running through his mind. I know from personal experience, I was in a bit of a championship battle on our Monday championship, and that's all I could think about. It's just like, right, I don't mind getting past here, I only need this position, and really just balancing that sort of risk versus reward is going to be absolutely key.
Yeah, it's not a it's not a race where you want to take risks, as we've been saying, and especially, I mean, Imola, it's certainly, sometimes it can feel like it's a little bit tight. I mean, those walls can be pretty close to you if you get things majorly wrong. And I mean, just a nice composed race. I'm sure everybody's looking for that, but certainly with Carlos Calatiud.
Yeah, I'm glad you sort of called out sort of the tightly compact nature of the race. That's going to be absolutely key here. Probably the number one racetrack on the circuit where traffic is going to play such a massive factor. It does in every other racetrack that we've been to, especially in this season. But not as many big twisties where the hypercars get slowed down, or dive a GT3 into a chicane. Imola, the traffic is going to really make or break any of these guys' race today, and how we manage that is going to be absolutely key. Carlos Calatiud done with this qualifying session, 200th behind Klaus Nyring in P2, and the hypercars are now coming out. Sorry.
Oh, they're marching out of the pits. Certainly, definitely trying to get as much temperature as we can. As now we're on board with one of the final LMGT3 qualifiers, and Chris van der Linde getting a little bit of a wiggle out of the hairpin. See that car? I mean, I sort of know the Aston Martin V8 Vantage GT3 as a car with a sharp front end and a little bit loose in the rear, and I think that was a bit of a demonstration of that.
Yeah, and if that's the case, he's going to make sure he's really careful through this Acqua Minerale section as he comes up. Purple Sector 1 on the timing. Obviously, we're not 100% sure if that's completely functional. At the minute, we are having some issues with our broadcast today, but down in the second sector, 4/10 down in the second part, and he's most likely going to get some hypercars there. You can see Hugo Merls in the background catching up to Chris van der Linde's final qualifying effort. He's obviously not going to want to past Chris van der Linde, just make sure he gets way out of his way, make sure he lets him finish his lap before Hugo Merls starts trying to set the pace in the hypercar field. But it looks like Chris van der Linde's gone wide. That's surely an end to his lap time here. Is he going to dive in the pits? No, he's still going to cross the line on this one, but very unfortunate to make that mistake into Ravazza.
And it's something that I think every driver that's ever driven this circuit has done is going wide in, honestly, second to last or the final corner itself. It's so easy to do. You want to carry as much speed as you can coming down the hill, and sometimes you misjudge it a little bit. You get off the brakes too soon, maybe get on the power a little bit too early, and that's what happens.
You're absolutely right. It looked like in the LMGT3 field, just as we start to commentate over the hypercars that we have here today, it went Lambo, Aston. So clearly the class of the field in today's race. I'm interested to see who wins that sort of inter-manufacturer battle. Going on board now with Peter Roche. He's currently sitting P3 in the championship, battling Ryan Gill for P2. So I'm interested to see those two tussle for their points to see where they end up in this championship. As in terms of where the hypercars sit, it's fairly safe to say Hugo Merls realistically has this one locked up. Has this championship sort of locked up and buttoned up in a nice little bow. The real fight is for P2 and the subsequent positions in the hypercar class, where Peter Roche is sitting currently in P3 in the championship.
Yeah, I'm doing some more quick math here, and from what I can see, quite honestly, Hugo Merrill, all he has to do is cross the line. Normally, I think it would be about P14 is where he'd need to finish, but as it stands, I don't believe that there are 14 cars in the hypercar category, as Hugo is absolutely flying on this first time lap. You can see that puts him in as a 1:35.99. We'll see how other hypercars are looking as they're beginning to cross the line, and that's a statement.
Yeah, the initial laps haven't got anything on Hugo Merls that sees at this sort of early stage in the race. But everyone's sort of easing themselves in, warming up the tyres. It's really sort of what I enjoy about these qualifying sessions is the pace just slowly builds until you're within that tyre window and you can really start going for a push. We're about to see actually an onboard lap here from Billy Octane as he goes through the Tamburello chicane. So just do that first left-hander, mount as much curb as you dare, and then on the power through the right-hander and the left-hander. Coming now into the Variante chicane and into Tosa, hard on the brakes, a little bit cambered so you can get on the power as early as possible. You can see there it's just fighting the rear on the exit there of Tosa, and now up the hill and immediately back down with the left-hander through Piratella. Down one gear, down 2 gears, mounts as much curb as he dares, taking all the exit curb there and immediately hugging back on the left-hand side of the circuit for the iconic Acqua Minerale. Down 1 gear through the right-hander, down 2 gears to get through the second bit and back climbing up the hill. I think he's got a Peugeot ahead that he's going to have his eyes locked onto as he comes into Variante. How much curb can he take? He absolutely leaps himself over both of those curbs, waits for the cars to settle, and immediately back on the power. A little bit of a flash, maybe symbolizing to the Peugeot, I am en route and coming here. Down into the brakes, a downhill braking zone with these cars with no ABS is extremely difficult into the first Ravazza. Into the second Ravazza, just a lift, full on power, just correcting that rear end a little bit, and that's a full on board lap with Billy Octane. Where is he going to sit? Currently, well, the current lap time to beat is a 1:29.8, 1:31.4 for Billy Octane.
Yeah, that'll set him squarely in P4. I mean, that'd be a good, a pretty solid starting position for him if that is to stand. Obviously, we have a couple minutes left in qualifying. I think we just saw perhaps a Glickenhaus briefly in the wall. Definitely hoping to get back on circuit, get those tires fired back up. Which I mean, that's truly what it's all about in hypercars. Those tires, if they are cold, the car simply doesn't work at all. And I mean, it's a bit of a waiting game. It's a bit frustrating, honestly, being behind the wheel and just being like, all right, I just kind of have to sit here, get as much energy as I can into the car, and hopefully build up the tire temp as Zeno Vandrisha is heading down into Aqua Minerale. Seeming pretty solid in the rear, definitely a bit more composed than that Porsche of Billy Octane looked there. I mean, the Peugeot does seem like a car that's pretty well rounded in a lot of things. Just ran over those curbs as if they didn't even exist. And we're gonna head down towards Ravazza, maybe getting a bit of a tow from, I believe that's Ryan Gill just ahead.
Yeah, Ryan Gill, interestingly, 10 seconds behind, but I do think that was Billy behind. Zina Van Driesche, she had a early disconnect in this session, so has only just been able to get out. And that means his tyres are going to be a lot colder. You know, these guys have slowly been warming in his tyres, whereas Zina Van Driesche just hasn't really been able. Been able to. That's his first lap at 1:31.4. So a brilliant first lap to, you know, get his tyres into that window, taking them all the way to P5. Really interested to see how that comes about when his tyres start warming up. But Hugo Moll's just absolutely flexing on the field here, still smashing up purple sectors, Jack.
It's truly impressive. I mean, you know, as championship leader, there's no time to take a rest, specifically, especially in qualifying. There's no reason not to just absolutely go for it. And oh boy, is Hugo Merrill absolutely going for it. Oh, he gets a really unsettled. I think maybe locked a bit of the rears coming into the chicane. That was as I was saying. Why not? You can go for it. I mean, it is just qualifying after all. Just give it in absolutely everything for as long as you can.
Yeah, and that's a straight to the pits there for Hugo Moles, which means this is now for people's takings. The track is going to rubber in. People's tires are going to get warmer as the laps sort of develop. So this P1 position here, this pole is now up for grabs. Is Peter Roche or Van der Velken or even Billy Octane fancying it? We'll have to wait and see. Ryan Gill currently sitting in P11, very uncharacteristic for Mr. Gill. And well, would you look at that? Ted Edwards absolutely treating us to the only Glick in the field, an absolute commentator's favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it would be absolutely something if we could see this Glickenhaus really just pull a lap out of the bag. I mean, it's sort of all season. It's not necessarily really been a Cinderella story. It's more just been the the plucky underdog that just hasn't quite had the pace as some of the other cars in this field.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pushing the event managers as much as I can here at RCI to do a Glickenhaus only race, and you best believe I'll be racing in that one. I'm just going to quickly hop over to our YouTube and Twitch chats. We've got Richard Withel and Carlos Calatiad saying hello in the YouTube broadcast. Best of luck to you both, and Carlos, really hope you are able to secure that championship today. So we have the Glick of Artem crossing the line, 1:29.7 to be on the timing table. He comes across with a 1:33.7. That takes him to P10 ahead of the Peugeot of Kanani and the Ferrari of Guy Comey, who was our winner from round 3, Jack.
Yeah, those are two quick cars. That I mean, they've done well. They did well. I mean, as you were saying, one of them being the winner from last round, and it's interesting to see them down there. Maybe they're just not quite comfortable under qualifying trim. Peter Roche improving his time just a bit by a couple of tenths. I mean, he puts this lap together, as you're saying. I mean, Hugo Merrill is sitting in his pit box. He certainly didn't have enough time to really go out and get the tires fired up after his spin. It would definitely be a bit of a shock and definitely be a bit interesting to see one of these hypercars just stomp to P1.
Yeah, and anything's possible. Usama Kanani, we know, has had a bucket load of pace in this race. Hasn't always been able to put together the qualifying laps. I mean, he put in an absolute wonder of a lap at Portimao, but in Spa in particular was a little bit further down the field. But we know what this guy can whack out in race trim. He has an unbelievable sort of bit of racecraft on him, and the consistency in a race setting is really where this Peugeot comes alive. So I'm interested to see where he qualifies. I still think this is anyone's game here. It's final laps, track's full rubbered in. The tyres are warm and everyone is going to be pushing. We can see a green sector for Kanani, and with everyone that's still out on track, Van Dries actually jumps up to P2 in the Peugeot as well, and he's 7/10 behind Hugo Mels.
Yeah, track is at its absolute best. The tires are perhaps at their absolute best in terms of temperature. As long as these drivers, anyone hasn't really scrubbed too much off in the early laps, things are looking pretty good, pretty solid for Kanani. I think most cars they're looking to that this will. I mean, obviously this will be their final out of qualifying time, but Kanani getting ready to cross the line. See if maybe you can climb a couple spots at 130.9 with a little bit of excitement coming over the line, shooting all the way up to P4. I mean, that was a well sorted lap there.
Yeah, brilliant lap in the final sort of hypercars crossing the line. It does seem like Hugo Mels has this locked and in the bag, 7/10 ahead of the competition. So I'm going to quickly run through the qualifying results as quickly as I can. It's Hugo Mels who takes pole with a 1:29.7, followed by Zeno Van Dries, Peter Roche, Uzuma Kanani, Milan van der Velken, Ryan Gill, Billy Octane, Yanyo Reese Wilkinson, and Eduardo Giacomi are our top 10 in the hyperclass, followed by Matt Malcolm and Artem in our fan favourite Glickenhaus. Only 12 hypercars joining us on the field today. Next up, we've our GT3. So we've got Klaus Naring, a 144.1, our championship leader, 200th of a second behind. Then we have Christopher Strapen, Chris van der Linde, Thibaut Roskam, Rybecki, Ibiza, Richard Withall, Leon Opedal, who's just come off the back of an LMP2 win at our 500 kilometers of Le Mans, and Keith Withall rounding out our top 10 in LMGT3.
I must say, that was a solid qualifying session. I mean, that LMGT3, that top two hundredths. That's not a lot of time, especially on a circuit quite as technical as something like Imola. Callum, what are you most excited about this race?
Oh, I've raced and I've raced with Carlos Calatiud for a long time here on RCI, and I will be over the moon if he's able to secure it today. So I'm really rooting for him there. I would expect him to, drop back and just sit in a comfortable P3, P4 and just secure the points. But clearly he's absolutely going for it. And if he manages to top this off with a win, I'll be over the moon for Mr. Calatiud. We're just running through here with a sort of our starting order. We've already gone through it off the back of that qualifying session, hopefully showcase a few liveries as well. What about yourself, Jack? This is round 4 of what has been an incredible season. What's been your favourite bits and what you're looking forward to in today's race?
I mean, honestly, I'm a bit of a simple lad. Really, all I like seeing is cars just driving around in circles way too fast. I truly just have enjoyed watching some world class drivers really just get at it around some fantastic circuits. Watching them, sight through traffic, battle each other, and keep it clean, keep it fast. Has been truly a treat.
Yeah, I mean, we're about to embark in an hour and 20 minutes of multi-class racing Imola. It's on one hand, I'm super excited about this race and what we're about to see, but on the other hand, absolutely gutted that we are really sort of coming towards the end of what has been an incredible season. Marco Bedowski also saying hello in the chat. I want to ask Marco, where are you? Why aren't you getting involved with these? It's always good to see you on the racetrack and usually right up the top end of the field. We're just coming through, well, seeing now sort of the starting order of our LMGT3s, where Ted has a shot here of our opening 2 in hypercar, Hugo Perrault, and I believe that's Van Dries on the left-hand side as well. A bit of Porsche on Peugeot action today. I'm interested to see who takes the top slot. Hugo Merle hasn't always got the pole positions, but if you cast your mind back to Spa and cast your mind back to Portimao, always manages to pull an absolute blinder at the start to get himself in a real good fighting position. Here with a pole margin of 700 or 7/10. Sorry, he's going to be running away with this one again, surely, isn't he, Jack?
I would assume. I mean, my head immediately is going to, all right. I mean, game plan. Maybe he doesn't get the absolute most best, launch, and is the best call to maybe just take it easy in turn one. Maybe just slot in behind in P2. But I mean, racing drivers are many things, and certainly they don't like to back out of a fight. I mean, maybe there's a championship on the line, but after all, it is just another race, and another race here to drive, have fun, and honestly win this thing.
Yeah, and I can imagine after the unfortunate sort of drive-through that he got at the Algarve, which would have ruined his 4 for 4, he's definitely going to be hungry here to make that statement and prove that I'm the dominant force within this championship. Look at this camera angle here from Ted Edwards, showcasing all our hypercars and GT3s on the grid. They're probably going to be getting underway any second, and they have. So this is it, Jack. Our finale of the Multi Sprint Season 2 series. We've got hypercars, we've got GT3s. Yeah, I'm feeling sad, but also excited for this one.
Definitely a bittersweet moment, but it's certainly not over yet. I mean, we're about to have a really, really strong 80 minutes of racing, I'm sure.
You're absolutely right. 80 minutes of hypercars and GT3s as they go now. Line astern here. We've got Hugo Merles on the left-hand side in the Porsche, with Zeno van Driesch on the left, Peter Roche in the background, Kanani there also, and you can also see Milan van der Velken, and then the two Bongo Tech cars of Ryan Gill and Billy Octane, maybe working together to get Ryan Gill ahead of that Peter Roche Alpine to secure the P2. We are now just eagerly waiting for it to go green, and it does. It looks like Hugo Merles gets a great start. Peter Roche seems to get a good launch off the corner, or off the straight as well, tucking right into the slipstream here of Hugo Merles. He's going to make a move for P2 on Zeno van Driesch. He's darting over to the inside, but I don't think he can quite get it. Hugo Merle with a brilliant start from that pole position. Zeno van Driesch holding second. Peter Roche in third. It's all clean for the hypercars.
Yeah, clean start. A lot of just going line astern into the corner. Oh, looks like we've had our first sort of incident. I was just talking about how clean it was. Becky losing his rear wing on the opening lap in the opening corner. That's gonna make for a long rest of a race.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I did just have a bit of a self chuckle there, Jack, at a comment you made in the Le Mans race on Sunday, saying, I've never seen any GT3s without a rear wing, and in this sim I've seen like two, and once again straight away we see one of the more cursed images, a GT3 without its rear wing. Very unfortunate for Rybecki, I know has been really enjoying this season, and LMU sadly making an early trip to the pit stop with that damage.
Yeah, that one didn't really look like there was a whole lot Becky could have done there to avoid that incident. It was sort of a bit of 3 wide, and 3 into 1 rarely ever goes super well. Unfortunate incident, but it's a bit of a long race. Maybe a bit of a bounce back. Maybe climb the ranks a bit.
Are we calling it a bounce back, or are we calling it a Billy Octane after this season? I wonder. Ted Edwards just confirming to us that Rybecki has called it a day, and that's a very unfortunate end to the season for Rybecki. Looking forward to seeing him in the future. Jumping to the GT3 field, Klaus Naring is remaining at the top of the GT3 field. Carlos Calatiud right behind, and Christopher Straper in the other Lamborghini tucking in into P3. I can only imagine these three will be people we see quite a lot side by side throughout this race, and Carlos Calatiud looking like he's already got a run out of the Tamburello chicane. Klaus Narin making the defensive move into the second chicane. He's going to have that covered off. Carlos Calatiud tucks back, thinks better of it, and hopefully gets a better run into another corner.
Yeah, it's a bit of a large cylinder sandwich right now. I mean, 2 V10s and a V8 just absolutely hammering through the Italian hills. I think Christopher Straper is definitely going to take it a little bit slow, a little bit interesting in here, seeing that those two ahead are fighting. I could have my moment. I could really jump at, a potential mistake from one or both of the drivers.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And obviously, Carlos Clatiad and Christoph Verstappen was very scrappy coming into the at the Algarve in round 3. They were side by side quite a lot, so these two know how each other race. They've been racing quite a lot in this season, so I can imagine a lot of respect will be paid between those drivers. But I'm really interested to see how this goes forth as we jump back into our YouTube chat. Marco Benassi is just confirming that he doesn't have his rig at the minute, currently moving house, so he's absolutely gutted that he can't join the Gowing board with Milan van der Velken, which has dropped a few places behind the Glickenhaus. It's a bit of a move there into the Tamburello chicane. Very late move on the brakes. A little bit of a shoulder check, but gets the move done.
Yeah, I mean, when you're coming up on a Glickenhaus like that, you sort of know in the back of your head, all right, I think I just have default pace, regardless of who's at the wheel, but committed. Good solid move.
Yeah, very good move indeed as we go on board now with the fight here for P3. This is really what is going to be ultimately for P2 in the championship. Ryan Gill currently sitting in P5 with Peter Roche in P3, leading a bit of a train here. It goes Alpine, Peugeot, Porsche, and then Alpine. And then you can just see Billy Octane in the distance also clinging onto this. And with Billy Octane, not Billy Octane, Reese Wilkinson a little bit further back, but with a lot better energy, maybe going for an early fuel-saving strategy.
Yeah, I can imagine Peter Roche right now really wanting to keep Kanani behind him. One more car in between him and Gill. And after all, whoever finishes ahead ultimately is going to have P2 in the championship.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we've already spoken about Kanani's sort of pace in these race conditions. So you can imagine he is very, very keen to get on that bottom step of the podium and maybe even start chasing down P2 of Van Driesch, who makes a lovely return after missing out the third round. Kanani taking a lot more curb there through the Tamburello chicane. That could be sort of going back to what you were saying in qualifying, Jack, but it just seems like the Peugeot can just attack these curbs so much more, and you could see that into the second chicane as well, as Ryan Gill makes a very costly mistake. He's off the track. That's going to put him back behind Yan Yo, and I can imagine Billy Octane didn't want to go for the move on his teammate there, but Ryan Gill with another costly mistake on the inside there. And it looks like Yan Yo has also made a little bit of an error. So what was, commenting on people taking a lot of curb, all of a sudden the mistakes are really coming in for the hypercars. Are the conditions maybe a little bit too cold and they just can't generate the sort of the heat in the tires and the brakes at this stage?
I would imagine there's a little bit of that. I mean, the Tosa chicane, the Tosa hairpin is often a bit of an overtaking corner, but that was a lot of spot changing. As maybe might have actually been a little bit of contact of Ryan Gill coming back onto the circuit. Oh, it just gets a little bit of a touch. Oh, that's definitely not something you'd like to see, and definitely I'm sure Ryan Gill is not reveling in that mistake there.
Yeah, I can imagine Ryan Gill will be a little bit apologetic, sort of as we go at the end of the race in our sort of Discord chats. A little bit too fast into the second chicane that ultimately took him wide there, maybe a little bit of disruption over the curve, and ultimately a rejoin just found himself with Yan Yo round the outside, and sadly a little bit of contact which sort of put them both into a half spin, but Yan Yo being sort of the worst off out of the two, running back on board now with sort of the lead fight in the GT3 field. We're usually used to seeing Klaus Nyring sort of run away here in the LM GT3s, but Carlos Clatiad and Christoph Verstappen keeping him honest and still right behind him at the early stage in the race.
Yeah, these three definitely keeping each other honest, keeping each other, hey guys, if one person makes a mistake, the rest are going to be there to capitalize on that. But an impressive, almost entirely equal pace is quickly going on board with Kanani getting real up in the rear, having a sniff on the Alpine in the chicane. A bit of a flash, maybe a statement of intent, just being like, hey, you should notice me back here. Don't rest, because if you make a mistake, I'm gonna have you.
Yeah, Kanani getting a really good view of those Alpine A-shaped brake lights, and a little bit of a flash of the lights, maybe just to be like, come on, let me through, or maybe even saying like, you know, a bit of a psyching out, you know, like I am here, I am quicker, don't make a mistake, or I'm going to sail right through. But it does just seem at this stage in the race, Kanani with a bucket load of pace. Can only imagine how quick he can go if he does get sort of released from this Peter Roche. Reese Wilkinson having with a bit of a lock up there into the first chicane. Was that a car going wide? It was. I believe that's Milan van der Velken going wide in the Peugeot. Maybe a mistake and a lock up into turn one. Ted Edwards is going to give us a bit of a replay. It's actually a fight here between him and Reese Wilkinson. A little bit late on the brake. Was just going way too fast and locking up into the Tamburello chicane. That's going to be costly as he sees his sort of rival and the person that he's just fighting drive away in the distance. Really, 2.6 seconds lost from that one mistake.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things that's easy to do. I mean, you're chasing a car, you just are carrying a bit more speed from the slipstream down the pit straight, and you misjudge it. Maybe you break 5-10 meters too late, and that's just enough. As we're on board with Hugo Merrill, who, I mean, talk about just a drive that's truly a statement. I mean, someone who's got the championship well in hand, just saying, all right, well, let's do it one more time. Let's win this thing.
And a perfect time to sort of ride on board with sort of this early dominant performance, as we can start talking about the element of multi-class. We speak about it every time we sort of do a multi-class race, but you know, you can be the fastest person on circuit, which Hugo Mills clearly is at this stage in the race. But if you're not good, as we just see a Ferrari taking a spin there, if you're not good at managing the traffic and you know managing sort of where you want to make that move, the risk versus reward coming through the SOA class, that can be costly for you. As we now go with a bit of a replay here. So Leon Opedal, who made a mistake in the GT3 class. Again, I just want to say this is coming from the back of his sort of LMP2 win at the 500 kilometers of Le Mans here at RCI, mounting the curbs, thinking he was a bit of a Peugeot hypercar, and sadly that's sending him into a bit of a half spin. Warm rear tires, that sent him into a bit of another half spin, and very unfortunate sort of early laps here for Leon Opedal.
Yeah, definitely did a really good job of keeping your heads up and knowing, oh, I spun. Oh, wait, I need to get out of the way. I certainly don't want to be clattered into by another race car. Good heads up driving there as we're back with this excellent three-way battle at the top of the LMGT3 field.
Oh yeah, this one's getting me really excited. This one is definitely cooking up something for the remaining 1 hour and 10 minutes of this race. As Carlos Calatiad, a little bit of pressure, making that mistake out of Ravazza, and that's just going to cost him the whole way down this long straight. And you can already see sort of the benefit that Christopher Strapen's got. But just losing it on the rear coming out of Ravazza, that's going to ruin the amount of power you can apply. You're not getting to your optimum speed as quick as the other cars. And you can just see how much time he was bleeding off of Klaus Nyring there, as Hugo Merles now coming up and catching sort of the GT3 pack.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how decides to dispatch this field. I mean, depending on where he catches these cars and where he decides to overtake them, it could help shuffle the positions a little bit between that fight, but he caught them seemingly at the right time and just uses that extra power that the hypercar has to just say goodbye and wave them on through and let them continue their battle.
Yeah, I mean, that's an absolute perfect camera angle to showcase the difference in speed between the hypercars and the GT3 class. You just see Hugo Mills drive away from that leading GT3 battle. We're now on board here with Billy Octane, seeing the rear of a Bongo Tech livery, looking quite comfortably at the front of another one of the Bongo Tech liveries. This is Bongo Tech on Bongo Tech, teammate on teammate here. We all thought we did theorize, Jack, sorry, that there would have been a bit of team orders. Obviously, Ryan Gill fighting for Peter in the championship, but it looks like these guys want to scrap. Probably both in a little bit of a voice chat with each other, and that's really what all racing is about. When you're in a voice chat with your mates, fighting in a race like this, having a bit of a laugh, that is peak enjoyment for sim racing when it comes to me. And Ted Edwards just said something in our ear, which I completely agree with and get blown away with every time we come and broadcast here on LMU. God damn it, this game is so pretty.
Gorgeous game, gorgeous liveries, but absolutely, I could not agree more. I couldn't overstate how much it is truly fun. I mean, occasionally race with your friends, sit in a voice chat. And I mean, if you're racing in the same class, it's always like, man, how fun would it be if we get to go wheel to wheel on the circuit? As Ryan Gill makes another little bit of a mistake, running out into that gravel didn't seem to cost him too much time. I mean, that Porsche, it doesn't look entirely hooked up in the front. I see a little bit of multi-class traffic here for both hypercar drivers. I've said it before. I've said it maybe 15, 20 times at this point on broadcast, but multi-class giveth and multi-class taketh away.
You couldn't have said it better. We're gonna have to get a soundboard for that soundbite, because we do seem to say it in every single hypercar cast we have. It's almost like the tagline whenever we have multi-class racing, not only here on RCI but any multi-class racing, because it's just such a big point, not only for the drivers but why we love multi-class so much. It brings in that unknown element, and for the drivers it is just it's so key to make sure you're getting this multi-class element right and balancing the risk and reward, and making sure you're not losing as much time as the people that you're racing with. As you can see, Christopher Strapen seems to be on the bad luck of things when it comes to hypercars coming through, and immediately almost having to avoid the Alpine of, I believe that was Yan Yo. What I find quite interesting in sort of the LMG hypercar multi-class racing that we have is, you know, the hypercar, better aero, better brakes, better in every conceivable way. But because they're so heavy, they almost have the same braking points, and even are probably braking a bit earlier in some cases than the GT3 cars. And that makes going into a braking zone side by side or just tucked in behind a hypercar extremely terrifying.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the hypercars are a bit heavier. Oh, Ryan Gill, another mistake. Definitely into the wall. That looks like a bit of a big one. That might actually be the end of his race for him. But just never something you want to see. Ooh, I mean, that's a long way off the circuit.
Yeah, absolutely gutting from Ryan Gill. It just seems like he's been fighting understeer in this Porsche all race long, and a similar mistake to the first one we saw today, going over that sort of first part of the second chicane, losing the rear, having a bit of a snap, having to correct, and just as he's corrected it, he's found himself in the gravel and a bit of a passenger going into the barrier. Absolutely gutted for Ryan Gill, who's holding P2 in this championship. Not sure where he'll end up at the end of the race, depending on how well everyone else has scored, but fundamentally gutted there for Ryan Gill, who has had such a strong season.
Yeah, I mean, just taking too much of that entry curb and really skipping straight across the gravel. The gravel not really doing its job, which is to slow race cars down. I mean, that was a big impact into the wall. But
nothing slows Ryan Gill down, Jack. Nothing slows Ryan Gill down, Jack. Not even gravel.
I think you're right. I mean, given what we've seen him do all season long, it is interesting to see that many mistakes in a row. I think maybe could have been a setup issue, because I mean, certainly a lot of understeer. Not used to seeing that from the Porsche hypercar, at least to that degree. Could be either a setup issue, or maybe, I think the temperatures, I think it's a little bit cold. Tires are maybe not working as well as perhaps these drivers are used to.
Couldn't be wrong. I'm not going to repeat what Ted just said to me in the broadcast. But I'm going to go with another edition of Callum's Terrible Theories. But where I was talking earlier about the fear throughout Minerale, and, you know, the high downforce levels you need to have around this track to gain the confidence to go fast. Maybe he could have set up that Porsche with just a bit too much rear wing that ultimately induces that understeer that we saw him suffering with in the Porsche. I'm just going to quickly jump into our YouTube chats. It's very active today. We've got Rybecki actually hopping into the chat and in our Discord chats as well, saying, you know, he went 3 wide into the first chicane, and which is absolutely gutting. Rybecki, gutted to see that happen sort of in the final race of the season, especially to yourself. And he's thanking us for the championship. And thank you for turning up, Rybecki. It's been brilliant to have you on board with us, and look forward to seeing you in the next one. Another person in the YouTube chat is Zach Vermack, And a man who was creating his own highlight reel in the Monza race hasn't been able to join us for the subsequent races, saying hello and watching everyone online. Zach, very much looking forward to seeing you in the next series, as I can only imagine if you were here today, you'd be involved in this LMGT3 battle right here. Those three still glued nose to tail.
Yeah, watching the little bit of that Ted gave us on the rear, looking back from the wing of that Lamborghini, it seems that Carlos Calatayud, it's certainly a battle of different strategies, different manufacturers. The Aston maybe looking a little bit better on quarter exit and just a little bit better on the brakes, but the Huracan doing what the Huracan does, just being really quick in a straight line.
Yeah, really quick in a straight line. That's going to be absolutely costly. Carlos Calatayud really needs to force Klaus Nyring into a mistake here. He's all over the back end of that Lambo, filling the wind mirrors and, almost trying to sight Klaus out. But Klaus just absolute nerves of steel at this stage in the race, not making any mistake here and doing a brilliant job of holding up Carlos Calatayud and the subsequent sort of pack behind, as we got a Glick now coming through. So a lovely sight for us all to see. Hashtag Glick fans. But yeah, Carlos Calatayud glued to the back of Klaus Nyring, and Klaus Nyring soaking up the pressure incredibly well, but it does seem that straight line advantage that the Lambo has is doing wonders in this defence as the Glick gets right in between them here. That's going to impede Calatayud on the exit as well as sort of the entry into the Variante Alta. That's going to give Klaus Nyring a little bit of a breather, even if it's just for 30 seconds, to have a little bit of a deep breath before he has an Aston filling up those wind mirrors again.
Yeah, I mean, I know, because I hear Ted in our ear. He definitely held his breath a little bit, as I did, watching that Glick sort of be like, "Hey, this is where I'm going to choose to over some cars." Not necessarily where, especially as a GT driver, you definitely wouldn't want to see that in your mirrors or see that happen ahead of you. But it was well done. I mean, really, Carlos Calatayud didn't lose that much time because of that incident. I mean, that was just, as we see, oh, look at that Glick just ahead. I mean, just a little bit of extra eye candy while we enjoy this fabulous battle with these LMGT3s.
Sometimes I do wonder whether we actually commentate on racing here or just thirst over Glickenhauses for an hour and 20 minutes, to be honest, Jack. Oh, look at that. Ted in our ears saying Cadillacs and all over the loud noises that Ted Edwards enjoys here. For those who haven't watched the Ted Edwards broadcast, if we ever have a break here on comms, I can almost assure you it will be on board a Cadillac. Just so he can listen to it and have some music to his ears. Still on board here with the LMGT3 fight. Klaus Nyring there going a bit wide, not really hitting the apex there on Piratella, and that's puts Carlos Calatayud right back in 1/10 behind, coming into Acqua Minerale, and a little bit of a shake there into the second part for Klaus Nyring, and this is going to give Carlos Calatayud a run into Variante Alta. I don't think so, but Klaus Nyring showing the first signs of cracking under pressure.
Yeah, I mean, that Aston looked really composed through those corners. I mean, Ted Edwards saying in our ears what we're all thinking, which is send it. But I can guarantee you that Carlos is sitting in that car like, I'm not going to go for a move unless I'm 100% sure I will get out on the other side cleanly. After all, there is a championship on the line. I mean, a big enough mistake can lose him this championship. Christopher Schreiber seeming to bide their time behind these two cars, but also maybe a little bit of a mistake in the final sector of that last lap.
Yeah, very, very uncharacteristic and rare mistake there from Christopher Schreiber, one of our top sort of drivers and people that we see here regularly on RCI. Obviously, a member of the RCI esports team on ACC. Now Bobby Yan Yo and Milan van der Velken, a little bit of a battle here brewing in the hypercar class. It looks like Milan van der Velken is able to get past Reese Wilkinson and has started charging up the road towards Yan Yo. This is going to be Peugeot on Alpine machinery, but we know sort of how fast Milan van der Velken in the Peugeot has been all season long. A little bit of an incident on lap one that dropped him back. He's almost going for the Billy Octane award here today, of a little bit of a fight through the back of the pack.
Yeah, as we're seeing, it's getting a little exciting going through traffic. Oh no, if it isn't, our Glick just having a bit of an issue going over chicane coming up the hill from Minerale. Variante Alta, and not something we want to see as we jump right back to the battle. Oh, it seems that Yanyo is spun on the exit of Tosa. That almost looked similar to when, Ryan Gill gave him a little bit of a tap, but I guarantee that there was not any contact there. Ooh, that is a tough mistake, and I mean, that's something that can happen if you're being chased by another car for long enough, and the pressure truly is mounting, and it's like, all right, you have to nail this, you have to do great. We can see just mounts that inside curb, which is not usually something you want to do, especially right when you're wanting to get on the power. So watch this again from the onboard. Yeah, mounts that inside curb. It unsettles just as he's getting back on the power. I mean, oof, rough, but fortunately kept it outside the wall, minimized damage.
Yeah, very unfortunate for Yanyo. Now finds himself behind Reese Wilkinson. It just seemed like the combination of a little too much inside curb, as well as you could see sort of that steering wheel was almost full lock to the left there, applying too much power, just stepped the rear end out. A little bit of a love tap with the wall, but it's managed to stay in this race and now chasing down the sort of the P5 position of Reese Wilkinson. We've got Mike Redford in the chat as well, saying shame there wasn't 2 signups available, otherwise he would have been in this one. Mike, get yourself on LMU. We haven't seen you on these events really, as we now got Yanyo and Reese Wilkinson coming through the second chicane, and some early boxing here for a couple of our leading cars. I think that's Van Driesch and Peter Roche. Is that a little bit of a wonky steering wheel? I think we may have missed a potential incident here between P3 and P2 in the hypercar class, Jack.
I think you're absolutely right. I think we missed a bit of a trick there, but that's not exactly, that's straight on steering, but yep. Looks like Aqua Minerale
in the wrong way.
It seems that Aqua Minerale maybe, oh no, it actually wasn't. It was coming through Aqua Minerale after Piratella. Let's see here. Getting really spicy up onto the curb. Yeah, runs it a bit wide. I'm sure the dirty air from that Peugeot is stinky, as I like to call it, having a big effect on the car, and just isn't able to keep it keep it together. I'm gonna assume that was a bit of lag there. Ugh, man, that's tough to see. I mean, it's one instant compounded by the other, a bit of a wall tap, maybe just being too. Oh, this is tough to watch, Callum. Oh no.
Absolutely gutted for Peter Roche. Obviously, his lifeline is that his sort of championship competitor Ryan Gill has DNF'd in this race, so he's naturally just going to try and run to the end. But that potential lag spike that we saw of Milan van der Velken going through Peter Roche, I do actually think this was costly. And even though it looked a little bit rough on the replay, he did clearly hit him and find himself in a barrier. I mean, the replay is doing replay things, but he found an Alpine in the middle of the road, and that's been massively costly to Milan van der Velken's race here. Can barely keep the car in a straight line, but they both managed to limp it back to the pits and get back out on track. But some interesting drama here. Peter Roche with a costly mistake, and sadly Milan van der Velken being a collector of a hefty amount of damage, finding an Alpine in the middle of the road. Gutting for both drivers, but that has spiced up sort of the battle in the top end of the field. Billy Octane finding himself now in P4.
I think we were talking about people fighting through. Billy Octane may still be in the running for a recipient of his a good drive through. Not necessarily making moves up the field through sheer pace, but by just keeping it between the lines, keeping the car on track, keeping it consistent.
Yeah, we know the Octane effect. I'm sure at the last minute he'll be making some outrageous moves, and potentially at this stage, knowing that he maybe hasn't had the pace to keep with Van Driesch and Kalani at this stage, trying to go for a bit of a different fuel strategy to get him up there. Carlos Calatiud staring at the back of a Lamborghini still. Surely he's got to be thinking at this stage of a different pit strategy, but both of them now pushing each other along and starting to really gap and grow that gap to Christoph Verstappen in the Lamborghini. So this is now what was a three-way fight for P1, turning more into a two-way fight. But the second these two go side by side, Christoph Verstappen's going to be right back in this battle. And if we know anything about Christoph Verstappen, he is a patient man that will always find himself in the best positions come the end of the race.
Yeah, it is really, really impressive, especially watching the onboard. I mean, to be able to stick within, anywhere from half a second to less than a tenth at a couple of times, to stick behind a driver like this and neither making mistakes, neither really giving in to eat the pressure. I mean, it's fabulous.
Yeah, fabulous, close and incredible racing. And you just say mistakes. Carlos Calatayud there going a bit wide into the second part of Ravazza, and that's going to cost him massively down the straight. You can sort of see the effect we were talking about a few laps ago, where you sort of go a little bit wide into the second part of Ravazza and you're just going to bleed off pace the whole way down the straight. And you can see this perfectly visualized as that Lamborghini just becomes smaller and smaller as he sees it drive away. Keith Whittle here in P8 fighting Donas Ibiza in the BMW, coming here through Variante Alta. Looks like the BMW has got a much better exit and is able to take those curves a lot more comfortably with sort of that front engine BMW. It seems to be a very sort of cleaner and easier car that people are choosing in LMU. It's very comfortable to drive, whereas the Ferrari can get quite loose, especially on exits. But interested to see how this battle sort of evolves. This will be Keith Whittle's best performance of the season.
Yeah, really, really solid drive from Keith Whittle. As right now, we're going to go on board just briefly with Lickenhouse. Just a little jump in there. Ted letting us know that unfortunately that Glick maybe took another off-track excursion, had a little spin. But yeah, as you're saying, a lot of people really liking to drive the BMW. Myself and another RCI staff member, Cormac Malloy, we both call it the grip machine because it really seems hard to upset. And it's a great car. It feels good, and also it definitely helps. It's quick in a straight line.
Yeah, it does seem to be a favoured car for anyone. So if you are sort of new to LMU, it's definitely that the Aston and the Ford seem to be a really solid choice for anyone looking to get into the simulator. Another battle that's sort of heating up is the Chris van der Linde Theodor Roskam fight. This again is a sort of Lamborghini on Aston. 3.2 seconds bridges the gap as it stands, but one we do need to keep a little bit of a side eye on as this race unfolds. 50 minutes left. It looks like a lot of people are going through a hefty amount of virtual energy. We're probably expecting a bit of a longer second stint than we have seen in other races, and obviously fuel saving is going to be key for anyone trying to jump up positions. I think Ted's going to give us a little bit of a virtual energy check against the other Lamborghinis. So you can see Theobald Roskam utilizing a lot less virtual energy than Klaus Nyring. Klaus Nyring obviously pushing to his heart's content. To stay ahead of Carlos Calatayud. And we did just see something quite interesting that Ted also pointed out for us. The clouds seem to be getting a little bit darker, Jack, and I haven't heard anything about a potential rain shower, but it's not looking good at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, Ted reassuring us right now that there is a 0. I mean, granted, if I didn't know any better, I'd look at that sky and be like, it might start coming down.
Yeah, I mean, me and Ted, naturally, we see a slightly grey cloud, and living in England, we immediately think rain is about to fall. So I think, out of pure reaction to seeing a slightly darker sky, we're like, oh, great, here's our summertime once again. So that's apologies for our immediate jump scare into thinking there's going to be rain. Verstappen with a similar sort of virtual energy to Verstappen with a similar energy to Klaus Nyring in equal machinery, but Verstappen still just within that 2-second gap. And like I said, he is a patient man. Might be waiting for these guys to fight or select a bit of an alternate pit strategy to put himself in a better position. That being said, very deep into the Tamburello chicane.
Yeah, I think patience. It's gonna be the key here. So we're just jumping back, comparing that energy more and more. It's definitely, I mean, I think it's certainly a product of driving almost entirely in clean air in the race and not having to necessarily push to try to catch other cars. You're going to probably use a bit less energy, have a bit more options. As Richard Whittle, clearly someone who's been pushing, is just having a bit less energy than the rest of the field.
Yeah, Richard Whittle clearly with a very heavy right foot, but it also could just be sort of how the cars operate. Ferrari clearly potentially utilising a little bit more virtual energy than the other cars, but it looks like Keith Whittle being able to hold on to his virtual energy a little bit better than Richard. Going on board with the last car now, this is Leon Opadol, who also is sitting at about the same level of virtual energy in the GT field that as Keith Whittle. So everyone there or thereabouts the same. There's no real obvious fuel saving going for anyone, which is very interesting because I feel like there are some people in positions in this race which, if they did fuel save and go for a little bit of a different strategy, could really benefit. Christoph Verstappen being sort of my #1 pick for an alternate strategy at this stage.
Yeah, I think it's really going to come down to, maybe doing one lap more, one lap competitor. I think we're going to be seeing really big swings. Which, speaking of virtual energy, our overall race leader Hugo Merrill is starting to run a little bit low. I think we're now going to begin to look through the hypercar field as far as energy, see maybe when the pits are going to start. Ted Edwards, thank you very much for that. As we see that this car's running about the same. I mean, the only standout being the Glickenhaus, Peter Roche, and Van der Weken obviously having gone into the box earlier because of their incident where they both saw a bit of damage and needed to go repairs. But vastly similar. I mean, Van Driesch possibly being able to take one less lap than most of the field. Same with Hugo Merrill, but no big fuel swings today.
No big fuel swings. Obviously, Octane, Kanani with a little bit more, and if they do save a little bit, they may get an extra lap than their competitors. And if you get that fuel calculation dead on, that extra lap is worth a couple of seconds in the box, and could be a bit of a swing here in this race. I'm interested to see where Peter Roche and Van der Velken come out. They've obviously had to repair a hefty amount of damage on that car, but theoretically won't have to box again in this race. Reese Wilkinson in P6 having a little bit of a race by himself, but again, very patient, very consistent, and is always finding himself in a good points scoring position for the championship. I'm going to use this opportunity just to give a quick shout out to our partners, Jack. So if you see anyone watching on our YouTube and Twitch, in our top right hand corner as we go on board now with the lead fight, I can only imagine that the second I start reading partner reads, they'll start going side by side. As we do actually see Kalatiad getting a bit of a run here on Klaus Naring into the second chicane. Is he going to go for the dive down the inside? Klaus Naring covers it off through the second chicane, and they go into Toza. And is he going to make a move up the inside of Toza? This is getting extremely tight between these two, Jack.
Yeah, it looks like he was thinking about it. I mean, Klaus Naring coming out of the Carlos just looking, saying, maybe it seems like I'm a little bit better on the brakes. Maybe I can dive here, but it's definitely that mentality of, I have a championship to win. If I finish here, I win the championship. As long as I don't make big mistakes, then the championship is mine.
Yeah, Carlos Kalatiad definitely going for it, aren't they? Definitely just doesn't want to just walk away with a couple of points. He wants to walk away with this win and pushing Klaus Naring to the absolute max. Jumping over to our partners, Ready Set Sim, whose sim racing builder is a must for anyone looking to get that next rig upgrade, or if you're diving into sim racing for the first time. You design, they install, and you can race without hassle with Ready Set Sim. Motor racing who needs no introduction. A leading provider in high quality sim gear, so again, if you're looking for that upgrade like I recently had to do, or just, upgrading from a controller onto your first ever rig, Moser will have you covered, and they will be able to boost your driving experience. Coach Dave Delta, where finding a lap time has never been easier, providing the highest quality setups, data analysis optimal racing lines across multiple sim racing platforms, including ACC, iRacing, LMU, and even GT7, if you are seeking that extra second or that extra tenth. Coach Dave Delta has your back. Greenman Gaming, where you can buy games for the top gaming titles at a fraction of the cost, from the newest sim on the market, AC Evo or LMU, to absolute masterpieces like Witcher 3 or Red Dead Redemption 2. You will struggle to find a price that beats Greenman Gaming. And Pimax, who deliver leading class resolution and clarity with its current range of VR headsets. Learn more about Pimax and any of our other partners in the description of this video. There are a few discount codes in there as well. And of course, a big shout out to Motorsport UK, who have RCI as a recommended community.
Yeah, thank you again to all of our partners. Keeps things running smoothly and wonderfully here at RCI. As we just watched and Aston have a bit of an issue coming over the opening chicane, and as Van der Linde just takes it across the gravel and clatters that wall pretty hard, and that's never a mistake you want to make, and is always something that's tough to watch from the comms box.
Yeah, absolutely gutted to see sort of anyone make a mistake and go off the track here, especially in the final round. You know, we're all just wanting to race, and the last thing you want to do is make a mistake, even if we're here in the comms box or racing alongside these guys. Even if you're in a fight, you know, if I'm out here battling a Matt Malcolm or Richard Whittle, like on one hand you're happy to see them go off and get the position, but you're also gutted for your competitors. You know, you wanted to have a good battle on track, and yeah, it's absolutely gutting to see. I can only imagine Carlos Calatayud is probably praying for a Klaus Nyring mistake at this point, because he just cannot seem to get past this Lamborghini.
Yeah, drivers love freebies, but friends don't like watching friends crash. That's for sure. But yeah, Carlos Calatayud, I think the straight line speed. I mean, it's, you know, there's a lot of straights on Imola, and if you just have more on a straight than the car behind you, you're going to be in a lot better of a position, because almost every single real good overtaking opportunity is going to be after a straight.
Yeah, after a straight, or just forcing that mistake. You know, we have seen Klaus Nyring make a few small errors, but Carlos Calatayud just hasn't been able to capitalize on those. They come through very anti-outer now. It seems just almost dead even as they come through that. Maybe the Aston just being able to take those curbs a little bit better, but coming into the braking zone now of Ravazza, again, the Aston seems to be better on brakes, but as soon as we get to the straight, they almost could just put their foot down and power away. But this could be the sort of the window of opportunity that Carlos Calatayud finally has been waiting for. Apologies, Jack. A little bit of a mistake into Ravazza, having the Alpine side by side. That's going to compromise into the second Ravazza, and Carlos Calatayud would have hoped that compromised Klaus Nyring all the way into turn one. But it seems like it was well managed by Nyring. He was able to, again, just able to drive away.
Yeah, it seemed like they got equivalent exits. Maybe Calatayud getting just a slightly better exit out of the final corner, which, I mean, that still means Lamborghini's going to win that. He has maybe a little bit of sniff there coming back through. I mean, through sector one, the Aston definitely seems to be, you know, potentially the car to beat in the LMG GT3 field. But as soon as you get onto this back straight, I mean, you can already see the Lamborghini just stretching its legs, just walking away a bit, and every time they hit a straight line, it's that's been the story today. And I imagine Carlos sitting. As I speak of the devil, there's the mistake that Carlos Calatayud had been praying for since the opening of this circuit, since the opening of this race. Sorry. As Yanyo taking another trip into the gravel. But that's exactly what you'd want. That's exactly what you want if you're Carlos Calatayud. Just you see that happen and you're like, bang, done. I'm on it. I've been behind him all race. I'm ready to take this position back.
A huge sigh of relief from Carlos Calatia there as we go on board with the replay of Yanyo, who I presume is going to be making a mistake here into Aqua Minerales at the start, just losing the rear, corrects the snap, but then loses the rear on the second part of the snap and the second part of Aqua Minerale. Lucky to keep out of the wall and very respectively reversing before he enters the track, hopeful to try his best not to take anyone out. But yeah, Carlos Calatia, massive, massive sigh of the reef. He has been glued to the rear end of that Lamborghini for over half of this race, and he finally, what he's been asking for, applying that pressure, finally gets the mistake he's been waiting for. We're on board with Klaus Nyring now to look at what mistake's going to happen coming into Piratella here. It just seems like he turns in a little bit too much on the steering angle. That unsettles the rear and steps it out. It's a brilliant save by Klaus Nyring, can we add? How he's able to catch that. That could have been a lot worse. Could have even been facing the wrong way. Well saved. Takes a little bit of a trip to the gravel and still manages to hold on to P2. I think you will see Christopher Schraper giving a little bit of a flash there. That's to psych him out. Coming back onto the track to hope he makes a further mistake into Aqua Minerale, sorry. But yeah, a unfortunate error through Piratella that's, that Klaus Nyring was the victim of, but a brilliant save to hold on to that P2.
Yeah, it looked almost like maybe it was on the brakes. It seemed like maybe the rears tried to go around, and it was truly a really brilliant save. Super impressive to keep the car going and not to lose an extra position. I mean, Christopher Strapen was maybe only 2 seconds as we now see Kanani is entering the pits. I think this is the beginning of our pit cycle for our hypercars. As Reese Wilkinson also enters the box.
Yeah, I was maybe expecting them to be a little bit later than this, but the hypercars are now coming in for a little bit of virtual energy. I can imagine no one will be taking tyres today unless obviously they want to try something completely different. But I can imagine in an 80-minute race, tyres aren't really needed at this stage. Hugo Mills able to do another lap with 5% virtual energy. This is all going to benefit people as they come into their box. The later you can box, the less time you've got to spend in the pits. And endurance racing is all about pitting the least and pitting for as little amount of time as possible. We've now got some Lambo on Lambo action as Carlos Calatia running away here with the P1 position while the two Lambos start to squabble. Someone's obviously blew a little bit of a dust cloud there going into the gravel as we have a Peugeot trying to come through these two Lamborghinis fighting for P2. Being a little bit patient on the back end of Toza, waiting to come out on exit and then powering through on the straight. Smart heads-up driving there by Willem van der Velken.
Yeah, that's something that's good to see, is that level of sort of patience and being like, these two are fighting for position. It wouldn't necessarily be fair of me or necessarily smart of me to sneak my nose in and try to. As Verstappen gets a little bit out of shape coming into Aqua Minerale, that was truly an impressive save there. Keeping and not even losing that much time, if any. If somebody could tell me on the timing chart, I didn't even know if he lost time there. It might have been even a net gain.
Yeah, another absolutely incredible save here, both from the Lamborghini drivers, clearly pushing each other to the absolute nth degree. As Ted Edwards is going to show us a little bit of a replay here. Klaus Nyring losing the rear on the first part of Aqua Minerale, and Christopher Strapen going, oh, well, I'm not letting you win the drift contest. I'll show you what a real one looks like. Coming up the second part of Aqua Minerale, we're going to get another angle here of Christopher Strapen's save. A little bit too much curve. That sort of bumps and unsettles the rear end of the car. Steps out. Incredible save from both drivers there. Another angle here for the save from Christopher Straper as Klaus Nyring has been the first out of the leaders to blink and get in the box.
Yeah, it's really, really good, solid on-edge driving as we're seeing more cars. Our overall race leader is now in the box. More GT3 cars. I think it's just this is the pit cycle now, and we're gonna see we're gonna see. So I'm sorry, I got a bit distracted by Ted Edwards, who's really excited about Billy Octane leading this race, which, to be fair, I'm also excited. I'm glad he pointed that out. But we're going to see the order just get a little bit shuffled. Here's a bit of the dice roll of this race as drivers are getting ready doing all they can, getting their pit stops right, taking the least amount of fuel they can, spending the least amount of time in pit lane, hopefully coming out at least where they came in, if not gaining a position.
Jack, Ted, Bongo Tech leads the race. I do appreciate Ted's enthusiasm, seeing sort of Billy, a friend here of RCI, take the lead. If you've just seen some pit lane drama happen, Donis Ibiza clearly playing a bit too much of other simulators where, we usually have ghosting in the pit lane. It's such an easy mistake here to happen on LMU. It's almost a rite of passage to happen, Jack. You have to crash into someone at the pits as you're trying to get used to sort of this simulator title's, nuances and quirks. Coming from someone that has done that on more than one occasion, I've never learnt. May I add? I can tell you that Ibiza will get damage from that he'll subsequently get to choose or not choose to repair in the pit stop. But the pitted car is actually almost immune from the damage of getting rear-ended, if that makes sense. I mean, that's just from my experience, and yes, on multiple occasions where I've accidentally crashed into a car on LMU in the pit lane.
That absolutely surprised the heck out of me, because I'll be honest, I had no idea that this was a feature. I would have done the exact same thing had I not known better. Oh, that's just unfortunate. Hopefully, Vander Velken, he didn't sustain any damage from that bit of rear end, but I imagine that Ibiza right now is just sitting in that pit box like, I cannot believe, I'm so sorry. That's never something that a driver would do intentionally, as our LMGT3 leaders are exiting the pits. And I tell you what, Christopher Verstappen definitely has gained coming out of the pits, as Klaus Nyring is really, really far back. I'm wondering if maybe it was maybe a either taking a bit of extra fuel, but also, I mean, granted, they're coming out of the pits on cold tires, and it seemed like today it's been an exercise about getting heat into them pretty quickly, because I don't think the track's very warm today.
Yeah, let's see how this sort of lead pack sort of condenses back together as the laps unfold, or maybe even looking at sort of the gap there to Nyring. 12 seconds behind Verstappen as he gone for I'm going to take a set of tyres here and absolutely blast to the finish, where a lot of people won't be changing tyres. That 12-second gap to me tells me he's potentially taken a fresh set, and he's going to make the gamble here to fight through the field, which would be a gargantuan effort to gain 12 seconds in 30 minutes, already on the back of the Roscam. But if he's taken tyres at this stage of the race, it's a gamble, but one that could pay off.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing. I feel like it's an exercise of, you know what, I don't think I truly had the outright pace to win this race, and maybe not the pace to catch up. And I mean, you may as well take the gamble. It is the finale after all. Let's go out with a bang. And it's really important for Klaus Nyring's race to get past Roscam here, and hopefully he's able to do it. Yeah, Roscam got a little bit out of shape on the exit. I think Nyring got the better of it. But it is Lamborghini on Lamborghini, and they're both mighty in a straight line, but Nyring's most likely going to be looking to deal with this in turn one, but I don't think that he's close enough. But we'll see. No, I think doing the right thing.
Yeah, staying this is where it comes to sort of a bit of manufacturer action. You can't utilize sort of your car's natural weaknesses or strengths to your advantage. We know the Lambo's got a gargantuan pace advantage on the Aston, but now it's just car on car, driver on driver performance. You've got to really make this move in a much different way to what he would be, and setting up in a much different way than he would be with another car on board with Chris van der Linde. This is a replay of sort of the incident that we've just seen here, where he comes off potentially into Toza. There's been a few victims of the Toza hairpin, maybe taking it too much inside curb, a little bit of too lock, or losing it on the exit. No, not sure where this potential spin is for Chris van der Linde. Is it Piratella? It is just too much curb, unsettling the car. and round that rear end goes. A lot of these people are getting caught out by the curbs here today, Jack. And again, just a testament to how brutal they can be and how important it is to get a car set up that works with the curbs here.
Yeah, he actually looks unsettled on the entry, but no, you're absolutely right. I mean, car setup is super important. You're going to be hitting curves, hey, turning in, and yeah, the rear just starts to step out. It seems like quite a few drivers are actually. I mean, these are usually rear incidents, at least. Oh, as we go back on board with Klaus Nyring, he's still just stuck right behind that other Lamborghini. I think we're gonna see a move coming into turn one here. But as I was saying, I mean, drivers seem to be struggling with the rears. I don't know if maybe there's too much or too little tire temperature as Klaus Nyring takes a little bit of a trip onto the grass. I mean, I've seen I know why making your corner entry wider usually ends up helping out, but that was a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, going all the way over to the grass, but that sets him up. I mean, it's all about getting the exit and getting a bit of a wider line, but he took that to the absolute extreme, and it paid off getting the exit out of the Tamburello chicane and being able to go alongside and take the inside for turn 5 and to turn 6 in the second chicane section. So a brilliantly calculated move from Klaus Nyring, who we're theorising at this stage has a fresh tyre set. He can now really go after these guys, but has lost a little bit of time in that battle. Currently trailing by 12.7 seconds to the leader, and around 12 seconds to P2 and about 14 seconds to the leader. Sorry, Jack. But a brilliant move there from Klaus Nyring to take him back into the podium positions.
Yeah, that was a really well set up move. I mean, if we had an overtake of the day, that might just be it right there. But it's gonna be tough to see. I mean, he spent 2-3 laps behind Roskem there, and that's just gonna make his chase for the leading cars that much more difficult. As we're seeing just the perfect example of multi-class giveth and multi-class taketh away for hypercar. Sometimes if there's not room to overtake a GT car, you just have to sit there. You just have to wait and take a breath and just be like, well, I'll get them when I get them. I've lost this time. I only can hope that my competitors are going to get a similar treatment.
Yeah, and let me tell you, if you're in a faster car class and you have to wait behind the slower class through an entire corner, it may only be half a second or a second or even 2 seconds. It feels like an absolute lifetime. It just feels like it's going on forever, and you get so impatient when you're waiting behind these cars, but it's all a part of the game. It's all a part of this multi-class game that we play here on LMU and other simulator titles. Carlos Clatiud starting to gap Christopher Trapen, finding that rhythm once again in the Aston, and he is really going on for what will be a first championship win and a back-to-back. No, it wouldn't be a back-to-back, but a first championship win here for Carlos Clatiud. Hasn't really got a win in this race, or in this season, but has always been in the top points playing position, sorry, Jack. And that's been a testament to him now currently leading the championship and poised to go for a win and a championship win in the final round.
I mean, he is absolutely poised to just drive this thing to the finish and crush it. But I must say, Klaus Nyring, at least on that previous lap, he seemed to have gained almost a second on the leaders and fell back a little bit, what looks like in Sector 3. But I don't know, this might not be entirely over just yet. Maybe the leading two cars will get caught in a little bit of traffic or something that maybe just pushes it in Klaus Nyring's favor. And I think he's obviously going to go for it, but there might be a fight here just in the closing stages.
Yeah, the gamble onto a new tyre set really could pay off. He's got a fresh set of rubber, absolutely poised and banging in the laps as we just saw. But where he's, only going to get faster and gain constant confidence on that fresh rubber, the likes of Verstappen and Carlos Clatiud are an hour and 57 minutes. Sorry, not an hour and 57, just 57 minutes into their stint at the minute. Still with 23 minutes left to do on that tyre. They're just going to get slower and slower. Their tyres are going to get weaker and weaker, have less and less grip, and that could even lead to more mistakes, which is just going to lose more and more time. This is an interesting development. I do think the 12-second gap is a bit too much of a stretch, if I'm being honest. But if he gets it done, that'd be an unbelievable effort.
Yeah, I mean, that's a absolutely enormous gap. I think he might have made a mistake actually as we're talking about it. I mean, that 12-second turned into a 13-14 second gap, but even for an incredible driver such as himself, I mean, that's still a mountain to climb.
Yeah, an absolute mountain climbers. We're on board with Usama Karnani. I don't think he's in the fight here with Van Dries, currently trailing 10 seconds behind Van Dries. But he is, however, lapping his teammate of Milan van der Velken at this stage. So initially I was confused and thought we had a fight here for P2 in Hypercar. But no, it's just the teammate Milan van der Velken who's had a very unfortunate race at this stage to find himself in P9. But Usama Karnani, 10 seconds behind Van Dries. That gap is just constantly growing, and the hypercar field does seem to be very stretched out here in Imola in the final round. And Ted providing us with the absolute joys here, a bit of Glick action. While we do sort of run on board with the Glick, I'm going to run over to our chats again. Zach Vermack saying he can't wait for next season. Zach, I also can't wait for next season, as I've just cursed the Glick as he runs wide into the second chicane. But I also can't wait for the next season, Zach, and I can't wait to see you racing in next season. But as for when next season happens, I'm not sure when it's going to land, but I'm sure it'll be announced soon. But if you are an LMU, ACC or iRacing player, there is so much going on RCI at the minute. We have a Monday one-off on LMU happening this Monday, the 4th of August. That's a one-off between LMP2s and the GTE class at the Bahrain International Circuit. That's going to be great fun. I'm racing in the LMP2, so if you do want to come beat me, spoiler alert, it's not difficult. Please come and join. Mike Redford, I know you're joining and you're in the chat as well, so look forward to seeing you guys there. If you're an iRacing fan, we have our RSS Endurance Series. We just finished off round 5 last week at Road America, and round 6 is in about 4 weeks' time. So if you've got a team and want to get involved in some iRacing endurance, that is the place to be. A brilliant endurance racing season that we're having, loosely following the IMSA calendar. If you're an ACC fan, well, Mondays always have you covered on our RCI for Mondays. It is almost becoming a bit of a cult, as we have almost someone else getting a bit mesmerised by the Glick there and almost following it off track. Milan van der Velken come out of the pits and immediately following the Glick, who made a mistake into the initial chicane. Yeah, so for RCI, Mondays is almost becoming a cult, and we're about to have our TCX Season 2, a Sylvia series, happen here starting on Mondays. I believe that's Monday the 18th starting. I am genuinely gutted because it is one of my favourite things to race is the TCX, and I love our TCX seasons we do here on RCI, and I'm on holiday. Can't believe it. I'm absolutely gutted. So please make sure you fill out those numbers, and plenty more is in the pipeline and coming up shortly. Our new Friday season will be launched soon, so if you do want to get involved with us here on RCI, make sure you check out our website for all the events that are coming up, as well as check us out on our socials, where we post up notifications on the events coming up, reminders of where and when you can sign up, and some highlights for the races that we see week in, week out. Mike Redford and Zach Vermack currently in our YouTube chats, already heavily featured on our highlight reel, as we have an incident here for our P3 position. Klaus Nyring making a spin. Is that another victim of Tozer? We will have a look and see, but very unfortunate. Maybe just pushing a little bit too much with that gap to try and make up on the fresher tyre. But yeah, coming out of the second chicane, very squirrely on the exit there into Tozer. Is he taking a bit too much curb, falling victim? And it looks like he may have. No, is it on exit maybe? So no, not at Tozer. It could also be Piratella. Tozer and Piratella seems to be catching so many people out here. Is he going to lose the rear coming into Piratella? And it looks like no, just over the curb on exit. Ted's trying to find this crash, and I have absolutely no idea where it happens.
I think we're about to get our answer here. Maybe coming. Oh, that was a big jump over the curb at Aqua Minerale. Just manages to keep it out of the wall. Super impressive. Impressive of that that Peugeot as well, just to stay out of the way. As we're seeing Klaus Nyring getting a little bit unsettled more and more. I think maybe pushing the car just a little bit too much.
Yeah, what Klaus Nyring needs at this point, he's dropped back into P4. We know he's got the pace for a top 3 position. He just needs to have a bit of a mental reset. You've made a few mistakes. We've dropped out sort of the leading pack fight. It's hard to keep motivated and stay sort of with that same aggression lap by lap. But when you start to make those mistakes, it just puts you off the rhythm. It makes you a little bit unsettled. And what he needs to do is just take that mental reset. For me personally, I'd go into the box here, but with 17 minutes to go, he's obviously not going to come into the box to have that sort of mental reset. But for Klaus Nyring, it's just holding on for those 17 minutes. Try your best not to make another mistake and just try to find a slow, well, not a slow, just a consistent rhythm. Keep it within the keep it within the white line, sorry. And yeah, it's a tough one for any racer to sort of go through at this stage.
Yeah, it's something where, it's almost like a mental, block that sort of creates itself throughout the race. I mean, the first 2/3 of the race, Klaus Nyring driving absolutely impeccably, doing everything that was necessary to keep Kalatiud from taking the first position and making that minor mistake going just a bit wide. It forced him to have to make a different pit stop change, make it go for a tire gamble to try to pull the win out of the bag. And because of that, you're forcing a little bit more pressure, a little bit more work for yourself and for your racing car. And it's just each little crack eventually just, it's a compounding issue. It more pressure, more worries, and that can just cause issues quite like that.
Yeah, as we see another incident here for Leon Opador, another sort of unfortunate sort of incident. You can see there the steering column is a little bit bent as well, and he's once again, Jack, lost a rear wing. I don't know what it is with you and managing to. I think there's some sort of curse going on here, Jack, because every time you're in the comms booth, we see a number of GT3s without a significant amount of their downforce.
Yeah, I hope that won't become a consistent feature, but I do believe all 4 races that I've commentated so far, there has been a GT3 car that's missing a rear wing in Monza, at Portimao, at Le Mans, and today at Imola.
Yeah, and now we play Ted's playing his new treasure hunting game, trying to find the incidents on the replay. Obviously, the LMU replays being a little bit buggy as it stands, as we now cut to halfway through the incident, and it looks like through the second stage of Ravazza. Is it the inside curb or the outside curb that's going to trip him up? A little bit too much inside curb. So as you sort of go up that curb, your front left is riding it, but then that's going to unsettle your inside left. It's going to unsettle your front right, because they're not got a full contact patch on the ground, and ultimately that's made the rear loose, swapped around on him, couldn't quite catch it, and thankfully quite close to the pit stop after an incident like that, and a quick fiery trip to the wall.
Yeah, I mean, it does make it a little bit easier when you don't actually have to do a full lap with no rear wing, as it sort of did a kickflip while exiting his car. There's nothing quite like driving a car with basically no downforce that you're used to having much more. As we see Milan van der Weyden going into the box again, we're all a bit confused here on the commentary team about why that car is entering pit lane again. Because I do believe that moments ago, maybe 2 laps ago, he did a stop. I'm wondering, that looked like a bit of a drive-through there. There must certainly have been a penalty after that last stop.
Yeah, one thing we haven't really spoken about throughout the whole season, Jack, is actually sort of penalties and drive-through penalties. And I can tell you from first-hand experience, Imola's an absolute nightmare for getting sort of the drive-throughs and the corner-cutting penalties. You want to mount those curbs, you want to really push these exits. That's how you go fast on a track like this. And if you're just a millimetre over these white lines, you're getting penalised on the sim, and it is gargantuanly costly for anyone, but it's the nature of the track. I'd say Imola in all sort of simulators is one of the harshest tracks and most difficult tracks to try and avoid those track limit penalties.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, racing is all about maximizing, and the limits are especially the track limits. I mean, they're really easy to cross at Imola, and especially with the amount of curbs that you're wanting to go over, and how sort of the tight nature of the track. I mean, it's something that I'm sure just about everyone has experienced. I know I think my very first race on Imola way back when on ACC, I definitely got a drive through penalty for track limits.
Oh yeah, and then speaking from my experience on any track on any sim ever, I've also had many a drive-throughs for track limits in my time as Christoph Verstappen still pushing that Lamborghini to the absolute maximum in his pursuit of Carlos Calatayud. Now dropped back to 3.8 seconds, 3.9 seconds, 4 seconds behind Carlos Calatayud now. And this is not a position we see Christoph Verstappen in a lot, but it does just seem like the Aston has the run. Now that he's ahead of that Lambos and he's not getting, you know, stuck behind sort of the straight line pace that a Lambo can exuberate. Once he's got ahead, Carlos Calatayud is just flying, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, I wondered if maybe I was thinking about it as we were watching, because I saw it as an inevitability that Carlos Calatayud would end up in P1. I was sort of thinking to myself, I wonder if he is just gonna walk away a bit, just because that cars look so strong in the corners compared to these Lamborghinis, and just a bit more composed. And it seems like that's a bit of the reality. I think Christopher Strapen, though, maybe a little bit upset that not able to keep behind that car. But I mean, the Lambo's it's a bit of a fickle beast. Not the easiest car to drive, and not the easiest car to extract 100% pace out of.
Jack, am I correct in saying you are a bit of a Lambo appreciator and a heavy driver when you're in the behind the wheel?
So, absolutely. My two favorite GT3 cars actually are the Lamborghini and the Aston Martin. I play quite a bit of Automobilista 2, and the Aston Martin just released yesterday, actually 2 days ago, actually, as we see Christopher Strapen getting a little wiggly in the rear coming out of the chicane. But yeah, I was driving a series in the Lamborghini and just switched over to the Aston Martin 2 days ago. So I definitely appreciate both cars, and have begun to learn each of their strengths and weaknesses pretty well.
God, I don't know how you've managed to cope seeing fighting between your two babies all race long. I don't even know how to follow that, to be honest, Jack. What would be your absolute, if you had to hop into LMU right now and you had one car, one track, what are you going for?
Oof, yeah, quite honestly, it might be a little bit of multi-class collision coming there for Hugo Merrill. I'm sure that probably his heart might have skipped a beat in that exact moment. I mean, he's truly had a dominant performance. I think his lead is closer to 30 seconds than just about anything else. But yeah, my dream car, dream track, believe it or not, it's actually what I initially drove when the Aston came out in AMS2, was Imola. I love this circuit. I've loved it it's been one of my favorite circuits for the longest time. I don't know when I first learned what Imola was, but it's truly one of my favorites to drive.
Well, I'm gonna lead that off while we're on board with the Glick with a little bit of a fun Imola fun fact, which is very personable to me. But in the UK, a lot of towns do really weird things where on their like welcome to X city, they have like what their twin cities are in other places in Europe. And I live in a city called Colchester, which is the oldest city in the UK, and its twin city is actually the town of Imola. So yeah, a little bit of a fun fact for you and the broadcast today. But another question I'm going to pose to you, Jack, just as we get into sort of the dying parts of this race, and one thing I'm really keen to hear from our YouTube and Twitch chats for as well, is something I spoke about in the early part of this race. If you had to pick a Mount Rushmore for a Mount Rushmore for racing tracks, what are your four?
Oof. I mean, Imola 100% is up there. I think one of them that's got to be up there, Sebring. As honestly, a lot of it, not a lot of it, but some of it is being from the U.S. and also being from Florida. I've known about Sebring. I've also known about Daytona forever, and it's just sort of this permanent figure. And so many drivers have so much respect for that circuit. It may not be one that's my favorite to drive because more often than not, the bouncy stuff gets the best of me. To be honest, but I love Sebring. Another one, Spa. That's certainly when I first started watching F1, it was always my favorite. One of the races I looked forward to the most. And number 4, ooh, I think you might have to come back to me. Give me about 2 minutes, and I can give you an answer.
I'm going to be completely honest. The fact that the words Nord and Lifer haven't come out of your words, or Le Mans circuit, is a cardinal sin. Sorry, Ted just asking for clarification. This is for anyone in the YouTube and Twitch chat. This is your Mount Rushmore of racing tracks. So the 4 best tracks in the world. As we go on board now, this is Carlos Calatayud absolutely dominating in the GT3 field. This is just going to feel so good for Carlos Calatayud, and for someone that I've been racing with. And when I say racing with, I mean racing in the same race with, but not quick enough to be racing with. To see him sort of come away with what will be a championship win with the lead of this race is going to be. It's a feel good moment for anyone that's sort of been involved here with the RCI for a long time, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, a truly dominant performance from not just Carlos Calatayud, but for both of our overall class leaders and our championship leaders. I mean, what a statement from Hugo Merrill, closing in on a minute of race time. I mean, it's incredible. I know I was mentioning earlier that the gap was closer to 30 seconds, and I feel like I need to get my eyes checked, but as Ted's clarifying, he gained about 8 seconds in the last handful of laps, which is seriously impressive.
Yeah, my man is just on autopilot. Clearly, it's just one with these hypercars, and a really, truly just a one with the Porsche. Every time he is in the lead of the race, he just guaranteed will not lose it. Pure dominance, not only for this race, but really all season long for Hugo Mills. He had the incident, well, not an incident, he had the drive-through off the start of the race in round 3 and still fought up the field. I think he actually finished in P4 at the back end of that race, even with a drive-through. But just a league of his own coming to this season. Really interested to see if he's able to carry this momentum into what will hopefully be a season 3 in the future. Just going on to the YouTube chat, we have had a Mount Rushmore submission, and I do want to say this is absolutely whack from Mr. Redford, but he's picked Nürburgring, Spa, Alton Park, and Donington Park. Alton Park, Jack. He picked Alton Park.
I'm I'm a fan of Alton Park. It's pretty cool, but I don't think it's that good. But all right, I gotta flip the question on you, Callum, since obviously that's the easy thing for me to do when I'm still thinking of my number 4 track. What's your personal Mount Rushmore race?
Well, you can't say that, because I also haven't picked my 4 either, Jack. No, I think if I had to go what I think the Mount Rushmore is, it would be Spa, Circuit de la Sarthe, Nürburgring, and Silverstone would be the 4, is what I would think it is. In terms of personal favourite, that's a completely different story, as we are going board here with the main fight on track. This is between Yan Yeo and Reese Wilkinson. Reese Wilkinson always managing to stay consistent and get himself in some really good point scoring positions. Currently sits in P5, but has the hungry Yan Yeo, who's had a couple of spins, had a couple of incidents this race, and is definitely going to be hungry to try and get past these guys. All while they have a looming Hugo Merle in the background. Both of them will have to give way to blue flags very shortly, but a little bit of a dying battle in the dying stages of the race. 3 minutes to go. Yan Yeo is looking like he's got a bucket load of pace on the Porsche at this stage, and probably eking out and going for a Billy Octane Award, as we have more late drama. Kanani having to come into the pits. Is that for a drive-through or a box? It looks like a drive-through, as he hasn't gone into the box. That promotes Billy Octane into P3. And is he actually going to lose out to Reese Wilkinson at this stage? I don't think so. Reese Wilkinson just a little bit too far behind. But a late drive-through is very costly here for Carney, as we've got a fight here between these two hypercars.
Yeah, that's definitely some late drama. Definitely something that maybe we were looking a bit for. It was looking a little bit sleepy on circuit, but I think the boys knew that this is what we needed. I mean, that's really tough for Kanani to just have to eat that old eat that drive through there. But Reese Wilkinson putting up a pretty mighty defense. I mean, Yan Yeo has been quick today, and if not for the handful of mistakes and also the early contact between him and Ryan Gill, I think Yan Yeo might have been within a podium position.
Yeah, Yan Yeo just dropping a little bit back to Reese Wilkinson here. What I'm actually loving about this battle is Hugo Merle's not, flashing his lights saying, hey guys, let me through. He's like, I've got a comfortable lead. I actually want front row seats to this battle that's going to be looming towards the end of the race here. Peter Roche coming in for a bit of a late pit stop. He's obviously had a lot of drama in this race, but Yan Yeo just dropping back to Reese Wilkinson, coming down into Ravazza. They're really going to have, if Hugo Merle's doesn't lap them, 2 laps to go. But if Hugo Merle's does opt to, utilize the blue flags and go past, these guys have got 2 laps left to sort this out between them.
Something that I'm taking notice of, I think Hugo Merles is probably going for a big chunk of fuel saving, because he only had about 7% of fuel remaining while crossing the line. I'm not sure what amount of percentage you really need to complete 2 laps, but I think it might be a little bit close on fuel. But also, why not watch this battle? It's probably been a bit lonely out front for a while. Let's get something to watch here for these last handful of laps.
Yeah, absolutely. As Yan Yeo still applying that pressure to Reese Wilkinson through Tosa, both make it out alive, which seems to be, the testing corner of today's race. But Reese Wilkinson doing a brilliant job of defending this position, placing the car in all the right places, especially as they come through Piratella. And Yan Yeo a little bit squirrely on the exit there, clearly pushing to his heart's content in this Alpine, coming through Acqua Minerale at this point, and just, pushing him to the absolute nth degree. Hugo Merle's clearly going to be dropping back and letting these guys have one more lap to sort this out, but they are literally practically touching coming through Variante Alta. This is close stuff, Jack.
I love this. This is what we needed here. Just a last blast of fight. I mean, Yan Yeo really is looking hungry behind this Porsche, and it's going to be this final lap to be the deciding thing. I mean, we'll have to see. Oh, sorry, that was our final lap. We're both a bunch of goofballs. Sorry, I'm just immediately dumping all my brain cells onto the circuit right now. But to our winner, Hugo Merle, absolutely dominant performance. But yes, Yan Yeo and Will, they do have one final lap to do it. I think actually positions have just changed a bit. I saw on the timing sheet, I think Yan Yeo briefly got ahead, but Reese Wilkinson taking that position right back and doing a little bit of gapping. Yan Yeo goes really late on the brakes, I think trying to go for any amount of overlap as possible, as now we're on board with Zeno Van Triesche getting ready to cross the line for a P2 finish. A good, solid, really good drive as we see the Glick ahead, just sparkling in this overcast sky.
Yeah, Zeno Vandrish coming through in P2, and we definitely got caught up a bit there in the Reese Wilkinson Yan Yeo fight that we've completely forgot that Hugo Mills crossed the line in P1, a dominant win and a dominant championship victory. Billy Octane has had a rather quiet race today, but sees himself in P3. No late Billy drama this race, just a clean and composed race in the Bongo Tech livery to get P3. And here we have Reese Wilkinson and Yan Yeo. It looks like Reese Wilkinson is going to have him covered to fend off that P5 position. Well defended by Reese Wilkinson. Flash of the headlights. He knows he's put in a great performance there to secure P3. A brilliant battle between these two. And Carlos Calatayud. He hasn't won a race all season long, but he's won this final one to take the championship here in the RCI Multi-Sprint Season 2. Ross Cam is already in the pits, and we have some lovely pixelated men there watching our race. But Carlos Calatayud, I think that might just be his first championship win here on RCSI.
That was a absolute dominant performance from both of our championship leaders, and now our championship winners, Christoph Verstraeten. I mean, a P2 is not bad, but I imagine behind the wheel of that car just feeling a little bit like there was perhaps more on the table. There's maybe a bit more that they could have done to maybe win the race.
Yeah, an incredible race there that we've just had, Jack, and an incredible championship. If we're being brutally honest, this has been one of my favorite things to broadcast here on RCI. I'm going to quickly go through the results. Hugo Mills in, well, Hugo Mills fashion, a dominant victory here to secure not only the win today, but the championship in the hypercar class. Uno Van Driesch in P2 with Billy Octane coming through in P3. Uzo Kanani late drive through taking him to P4, followed by Reese Wilkinson, Yan Yeo, Peter Roche, Artem in the Glickenhaus, Milan van der Velken, and then a few retirements in the way of Ryan Gill and Matt Malcolm. In our GT3 field, when it comes up, Carlos Calatayud, first win of the season. He only needed a P8 today, but he took the championship in style with a P1, followed by Christoph Verstraeten, who just didn't have the pace on Carlos today. Theobald Roskam came through in P3, followed by Klaus Nyring, Richard Whittle, Keith Whittle, Donners Ibiza, Leon Opador, and Chris van der Linde being the only DNF of today's race.
All right, Callum, you know what I'm going to say. Driver of the day. Who is it?
Look, I said it at the start. It's what I wanted to happen, and it happened. Carlos Calatayud fought for that win today. He didn't need it, but he fought for it, and he secured a brilliant win in the GT3 field. But obviously, Hugo Mills again with an absolutely dominant performance. Just before we bring through the interviews, Jack, who would you give your sort of driver of the days to?
I gotta agree with you. It may be a cop out, but I think it is the best answer, Carlos Calatayud. I mean, just having to fight for it for a good 2/3 of the race. I mean, that was it was impressive. It was dominant, and it was a really good championship victory.
Absolutely. Just looking into our ready to interview channel, Jack, we do have a couple of people, so I'm going to quickly pull in our first interview of the post race. Zeno Van Driesch, hello and welcome to the RCI broadcast. How are you? How was your race? It seemed quite lonely there in P2, watching Hugo drive away and, you constantly pulling away from sort of P3 behind. So it seemed trouble-free, but a P2 nonetheless. How do you feel?
I'm pretty happy. I think it's the most boring race I have ever done. Because driving P2 from the beginning to the end, yeah. If you look at Spa, that was just so a thrilling race, and then this one was a little bit boring, but I'm very happy. It's my best result I've ever had in RCI. And yeah, it was a pretty clean race, no incidents. Yeah, that's it, a little bit.
I was gonna call out that Spa race as well. Definitely, almost a contrasting race for you. You know, Spa being in that battle for sort of P2 between the 6 hypercars, to here just sort of sitting comfortably in sort of that P2 position and constantly running away from it. Um, how was your season in general? Are you looking forward to sort of the next event we do here on RCI, and do you want to keep that momentum going forward as we go into the next season?
Uh, I think it was my best season I've had. 2 podiums, of course, one race I didn't participate. I'm definitely looking forward for future seasons. And I hope I can keep this momentum going.
Brilliant. We look forward to seeing it. It's always a pleasure having you here on RCI. Really been enjoying you getting stuck in and involved in the season. Is there anyone you want to call out quickly before we let you go and head on to our other interviews?
Of course, I want to say congrats to Hugo for winning this championship, and my friend Milan for driving with me. Yes, that's it.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you next season.
Yes, thank you. Have a nice one.
Right, now we're just going to pull through our P4 position, Kanani.
Osama Kanani, welcome. Hope you enjoyed your race. It was an impressive drive, a tough late DT. How are you feeling immediately after the race?
Yeah, I think my race at the beginning was really frustrating because the bad qualifying, I couldn't get a good lap in, and I was stuck behind traffic the whole qualifying, and then stuck behind Roach the whole like first 20 minutes of the race, which cost me like 8 seconds to P2, something like that. And yeah, from there it was just the tires already gone, so I couldn't really do anything much, and I had to carry those tires to the end of the race. So it was really difficult to stay on pace with the guys ahead. But yeah, I mean, I even I started getting some weird lockups in the rear because of all the heat in the rear tires and the rear brakes overheating too much. Yeah, it was a tough one.
It seemed a bit tough from where we were watching. I mean, a good solid podium run up into that DT. I assume that was because of a track limits violation. You could just clarify
Yeah.
that for us.
Yeah, it's track limits. I did slow down, but it caught me like on the last second, I think. It just gave me a 0.5, and that was the drive-through. So I couldn't even I didn't have enough gap behind to cover from Billy. So yeah, that was P3 gone. But I honestly at that point, because I knew like my goal was P2, and I already lost that, so I don't really care if I lose another position. So yeah, it is what it is.
It was just a race to the finish for you then. It was just
Yeah.
get this thing home and get it done with.
The only highlight I think was my move on Peter Roche, and that's the only highlight I think from my race. I don't think the broadcast caught that, but I think that was a really great overtake.
I feel like, I don't know, Callum, you can correct me. I feel like we might have.
Potentially, I think a lot happened. I can't remember it all. And if we didn't, we can just hashtag blame Ted.
I like
Yeah,
that. Yeah, that works for me. But thank you for joining us in the box. Lastly, of course, anyone you want to shout out?
well, I mean, great job to everyone else who raced here, and really thank you to the broadcaster yourselves and to everybody who organized this league. It was really fun. Hopefully, we'll see you guys in next season.
Well, we hope to see you as well. I think we're now going to move on to our final interview, which will be with the Billy Octane.
Billy Octane, welcome to the RCI broadcast. It's a joy to have you on. Talk us through your race and a well deserved P3.
Hello. Pleasure to be here, boys. Well, I just drove. Nobody rammed me this time, and P3 it is. Long story short, just stayed out of trouble, and decided to save a bit of fuel and took a bit less than others and cruised to the end.
Yeah, it was good to see you get that P3. I don't know if you've watched back any of the broadcasts, but we've been a massive fan of your work here as the season sort of unfold. It seemed to be a recurring pattern that sort of something happens to you early on in the race, and then you just start fighting through the field, making some brilliant moves. I mean, I'm throwing back to sort of the three wide moment in Monza, the moment in Spa, sort of late on as well. It seems like you were always bringing the action in the early rounds. So to see you come through in P3 was really a joy for us, as you've been a massive highlight, sort of as the season's gone on. So thank you.
Oh no, thank you. You're too kind. So, but yeah, this one, if you put it that way, kind of boring. But sometimes boring is good, I guess. And celebrating P3 Friday evening with some beers would be nice. Well, I already started with the beers during the race, but that we're not going to speak about that.
That's awesome. I mean, listen, sometimes the best results are sometimes the least interesting races. I gotta
Yes,
ask, when after the early mistake from Ryan Gill, I know you guys seem to
which one?
race together. When he went, fair enough.
Which one?
Fair enough.
Which one?
When he went off track early in the race, and you two ended up line astern on each other, were you guys talking? Was there any team orders? Was there, hey, I'm gonna let
Yeah,
you go? Was it just we're gonna race each other?
no, I told him to don't make it too obvious, but kind of need to get past you. So he took it a bit too far, I guess, and decided to make it not too obvious. Explored the gravel a bit, and move executed.
Well, it was pretty entertaining for us to watch, regardless. But
No, yeah, he made it interesting to say the least. But I guess he liked the move so much the first time he decided to try it again. But not that lucky
sometimes
second time.
sometimes that's all that ends up happening. But definitely enjoy
Yeah.
watching both of you this season. Some of
Yeah.
the most exciting moments definitely between
Thank
you. I mean, we've got the Billy Octane Award now for fighting through the field. So
Send the trophy. I need it. I'm yearning for it. Thank you, guys. Very kind words. Thank you.
of course, congrats on P3.
Yeah, feels like a win. I'll take it.
Thank you, Billy, and thank you to everyone else that's been racing with us all season long. It's been an incredible season. Jack, we've done 3 rounds of this together. Do you have a highlight, a season long highlight before we close out?
I think my favorite moment was, in fact, the 3 wide moment at Monza, right at the closing stages. I know, Billy, you're still sitting in here listening to us, but if you weren't here, I still would say the same answer. I mean, that was my opening broadcast, and it was a treat to watch that get to happen, and it was a great race as well.
It was an incredible move and a true statement to how incredible this season has been. If you are, again, wanting to race with us here on RCI, we have events happening on LMU, ACC, and iRacing at the minute. And I don't know if you can just get the immediate feeling from sort of the interviews that we've had here today or the way that we sort of talk together, but it is such an incredible community we have here on RCI. A big shout out to our partners. Rotating in the top right hand of your screen, Ready Set Sim, Moser Racing, Coach Dave Delta, Greenman Gaming, and Pimax, and of course Motorsport UK that have us as a recommended community. I'm going to quickly sign us off here, not only for this race, but for the Multi-Sprint Season 2 Championship, where we saw Hugo Mills in the hypercar class and Carlos Calatiad in the GT3 take well-deserved victories. From myself, Callum Kerrigan, the incredible Jack Mays, and the ever wonderful Ted Edwards on the broadcast, thank you very much, and we will see you next time. You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel, let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, steel alive. Live this dream and drive. Tires burning with gasoline. Push the limits, chasing green. One shot, don't slow. Go on, we'll take control. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Out
we're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. The miles they fade, but they don't die. Faster now, the hours fly by. Sweat and gears, hearts in sync. On the edge, on the brink. Clock ticks down, stakes are high. One mistake, we kiss us goodbye. Don't slow down, we're not done. Finish line for the strong ones. Engines scream alive tonight, blazing past